What's up, everybody? Welcome to the View from Jamestown podcast edition. This is episode 34, and this afternoon I'm sitting with two very special people from Perstorp. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you guys coming over and taking the time to spend a few days here with us. So I'm sitting down here with Jenny Klevas, Market Segment Manager for Perstorp, and Anders Magnussen, Technical Market Development Manager for Perstorp. Maybe take a minute, have each of you guys introduce yourself, talk about your backgrounds and your day-to-day with Perstorp. It'd be interesting to maybe start with Jenny, kind of your day-to-day and background and what you work with.
Yeah, I work as you said, market segment manager in the business unit Plasticizers. So that means that I'm responsible for one of our plasticizer portfolios at Perstorp. So both from a product perspective, but also from a marketing perspective. So you could say it's a combined role. And I've been at Perstorp since 2017, so fairly new at the company.
Yep.
There are people who've been around at Perstorp many more years than I have. Now I'm looking at Anders.
How about yourself, Anders?
Believe it or not, that it's been actually 30 years within the company in various different roles. So.
Very nice. And what is your kind of day-to-day? What do you work with?
I'm working together with Jenny to have more technical marketing of Pevalen, so attending conferences, giving feedback and material into different kinds of brochures, and of course, then the most important part is to have technical support to the customers.
Yeah, no, I've seen you at quite a few different conferences, and mostly in the U.S., of course. But it's been great to see you at different shows, and maybe even taking a step further back. If you want to introduce Perstorp to anyone that may not be familiar with Perstorp as a company, who you guys are and your specialties and what you guys do day to day.
Yeah, Perstorp is quite an old company. So they started off already in 1881. In a very small village called Perstorp. So the company wasn't named after the village in the beginning, but eventually. And we still have a big plant at site Perstorp in the village. And it has been a lot of products that have been produced at the Perstorp during the years. Started off with acetic acid and methanol, and moved into plastics in the 50s. And we have been producing flooring, for examples. But since a couple of decades ago, we have been specialized in more specialty chemicals.
Very nice. And obviously a global company, global footprint in your offices and where you're selling. Yeah,
we have the headquarters in Malmö, in the very south of Sweden, but we have plants across the globe in US, for example, and in China and in different locations in Europe.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to have Jan Secker on. It was our second ever podcast episode. I guess it was last year now. So that was a lot of fun. We'll put a little link if anyone hasn't seen that. He was a great speaker. It was great to sit down with him.
I'm sure he was.
It's crazy. I'm looking at the guys here. It was our second episode ever. It was a long time ago. But yeah, so it's been a great partnership with TCC and Perstorp, especially on the plasticizer side for quite a few years now, and excited to roll out a few new products, which we'll get to in a minute. But I know one thing we kind of wanted to jump into and talk about, which is a trend that's really impacting anybody, whether you're specifically in the chemical field, if you're just a average consumer looking at toys or flooring or whatever the case might be, is kind of the perception going on today of PVC as a whole. And then you have the whole phthalate versus non-phthalate, debate or discussions that are going on, and various scientific or technical research studies that come out on the safety or the usability of the different products. Something I'm sure both of you guys spend a lot of time looking at and understanding and seeing what's going on. But maybe kind of what are your perceptions and what are you guys seeing with PVC and phthalates as a subset of PVC as a whole?
Well, I think it differs between different industries. The perception of PVC or vinyl for consumers, it's very hard to understand the difference between phthalates, non-phthalates, and in many cases, PVC is considered to be harmful. due to that it can contain phthalates, and phthalates are problematic and dangerous. So it's very hard for consumers to navigate, and consequently, some brand owners, they are taking a stand against PVC, and some retailers, they are taking a stand against phthalates. So it really differs, and in some industries, it's not a discussion at all.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think it differs. The closer you get to consumers, especially when it's about children, or then it's more there you find more discussions about PVC in general.
Yeah, it seems like there's always lots of kind of articles and information out there. Some of it backed by science, some of it just kind of becomes this spiraling, story or things that maybe is not necessarily backed by science. So it's been interesting seeing stuff that's led by the consumer, led by the Home Depots or Walmarts of the world, the big box retailers. You're kind of seeing it from both sides with kind of a pressure or pinch against PVC and phthalates in some situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to phthalates, you have these all varieties of phthalates. You have the orthophthalates, you have the terephtalates, and then in these groups, it's also very different types of chemistries, but still it's difficult.
And obviously with our podcast and episode and us as a company, we focus kind of on the North American market and some in South America as well. But with you guys based in Europe, I mean, what are you guys seeing? Is it a regional thing with PVC or phthalates in certain regions, or is it kind of a global, perception of PVC and phthalates? Is it different in certain regions, or is it kind of everywhere?
Well, it is different. You can say that on a global basis, the trend is quite clear that we are moving towards non-phthalates. So that market is growing at a faster pace than the market for phthalates, even if we see that, the general trend is that PVC is growing due to its cost performance benefits. But the legislation looks a bit different. So legislation is one thing, and then perception or trend is another thing.
Sure.
So the trend is clear. It's clearly towards non-phthalates.
Yep.
But from a legislative perspective, it can be a bit different.
Yeah. And from more of a technical side of things, do you see a big difference, or how does that affect you doing technical work and technical research? Phthalates versus non-phthalates, are certain products better or easier to work with, or how have you seen it from the technical side of things?
I mean, the phthalates have been around for a very long time. Now we bring in different molecules as non-phthalate, which of course will have an impact on the material or the formulation due to its different compatibility and the long development only having phthalates around. But now we have different structures, different polarities that needs to be compatible with the formulation. So there is not a drop-in replacement when it comes to plasticizers.
Yep. And I think that's a good transition into kind of the bulk of the conversation is Pevalen. And that's something the chemical company is very excited to be working with Perstorp in North America on. Maybe you want to give an introduction on Pevalen. What is it? Where did it come from? And kind of what is it being produced and marketed to kind of fill this gap in the industry?
Yeah, Pevalen is a polyolester-based plasticizer. So it's an aliphatic plasticizer. And so it's based on pentaerythritol and valeric acid. And the very starting point when Pevalen was developed was to develop a non-phthalate plasticizer. And then, why it became pentaerythritol and valeric acid? Well, it was basically the best combination that we could find given our the raw materials at hand. Maybe Anders, you want to ship in.
No, that's correct. I mean, to be able to be a high volume plasticizer supplier, you need to have a captive raw materials to be able to really compete on those high volumes. So Perstorp did a very wide spread looking into different possibilities of raw materials to really see what could be done or what could be utilized. So it's ended up with one of the biggest products we have, a penta-erythritol, as a core for this molecule. So it's truly an aliphatic molecule.
And of course, the penta piece of it positions Perstorp very well with your backwards integration into the the penta market.
Yeah,
which is very helpful as you go to market and
of course
are ramping up.
Yeah.
And what are some of the biggest successes you've seen so far and are hoping to achieve, maybe based on the end uses or certain products it can replace or be used kind of in combination with in the marketplace?
Well, we have seen that Pevalen can be used in many different applications. And we have some customers that we actually got already when we introduced the product in 2013 that are still using Pevalen.
Sure.
And so I think that is really, they really have a proof of success that customers stay with you. And Anders, you have been really working with Pevalen ever since it was launched.
Yeah. And like you said, it's not typically maybe non-phthalates that are always the case, or non-phthalate applications or close to consumer. There are actually some other good properties also of this unique plasticizer with its aliphatic structure, having a really high UV stability. So that is also, so to say, an interest from the market.
And what are some of those core? I mean, I know there's 5 or 6 bullets that are really the key selling points and drivers for the Pevalen. What are some of those kind of core selling aspects and pieces from a technical standpoint that have been popular and helped with the release?
Of course, we're talking of cost and volume availability. Having an efficient plasticizer is very beneficial, because then you reduces the amount that is used, and in combination with a low volatility, which makes the article last for a longer lifetime. And then if you can save some energy, for example, with a faster processing, or you can reduce any additional additives into the formulations as UV stabilizers, then you get the cost advantage of a product.
Sure. And then there's a like a secondary product or a subgrade of Pevalen, which is Pevalen Pro, which we've seen a big push with sustainability efforts and kind of the whole going green movement, and people want more sustainability in their supply chains. And that obviously leads right to those, goals with having a more sustainable version of the Pevalen.
Yeah, Pevalen Pro is Pevalen based on renewable content. And so it's really the same molecule, and it's produced with the mass balance concept. So it's really about keeping track of the right amount of the raw materials that goes into our tanks.
Sure.
And Pevalen Pro is now we can offer Pevalen with up to 36% of renewable content. So that would be Pevalen Pro 36.
Yep.
But we have a very strong direction, you could say, at Perstorp, and that is that we will become finite material neutral. And so we have, of course, the ambition to be able to offer Pevalen Pro with 100% renewable content.
Sure.
So this should be seen as a first step, you could say.
And so Pevalen Pro it's the same molecule. It has the same specifications and functionality as Pevalen, but with that renewability aspect.
Absolutely. So that means that our customers who have already qualified Pevalen, then they can use Pevalen Pro, and it will be a drop-in replacement as it's the identical molecule. Yeah.
Which I think is impressive. As you see some of these different sustainability efforts and products coming out, a lot of times you can get the sustainability part, but you're going to lose this, or you're going to lose that, or you're going to lose a piece of it. So having the exact same molecule with all the specifications of the standard Pevalen is impressive.
Yeah, and it's for us, it's also the best way if we're going to switch towards renewable content. That this approach of having this mass balance concept is really how you can do it stepwise, because it needs to be still affordable. It needs to be sustainably done, and by using also this ISCC certification on it, it also gives you a, you could say, a assurance of quality, because it also means that the raw material that goes into the pro version or the renewable version is sustainably sourced. So there is a full traceability from, you could say, cradle to gate of the product.
Absolutely. And it's a relatively new product to the market, or late 2010 or so and kind of beyond. So it's less than 10 years old, which in the grand scheme of, the PVC industry is a fairly new product. What are some of your guys' goals, and how do you see the Pevalen continuing to grow and develop in the marketplace?
Well, we see a growing demand for this product, and we announced it's around 1 year ago that we increased the capacity drastically for Pevalen, and that is, of course, to respond to a growing market demand. So we foresee a bright future for Pevalen.
Which in itself, for a relatively short time period to announce an expansion and growing, obviously shows your commitment and dedication to the product, and obviously success that's already happened, and, expecting more success with different companies and different industries, kind of throughout the world.
Oh, absolutely. And I think also that now when we're starting to work together with the TCC, I think that will also support our growth plans, especially in North America.
Absolutely. And do you see is there a region of the world that has more demand for Pevalen or products like Pevalen, or is it kind of a global switch, a product that can be used really globally? Is there a certain region that you've had more success or more interest, or has it been kind of everywhere?
Well, we started off in Europe, so obviously the market for Pevalen is more mature in market due to this reason. But we see a growing demand in North America. We see it in Asia, but there is one market, you could say, that is looking for a non-phthalate product. But then we also have in industries where there is not a clear demand for non-phthalate, but that where Pevalen has been chosen due to its technical properties.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, speaking on behalf of the chemical company, we're excited to work with you and Perstorp and roll this out to North America and really continue to bolster that demand and get people excited about it. Obviously, with your market expertise and the technical support from Perstorp, we're excited to roll it out and see what kind of feedback we have. Anything else to add about it? Any other final thoughts on it, on the product or the future of Pevalen and where it's going?
I think we covered it quite well.
I think so too. I appreciate the time. It was great to sit down with you guys. We appreciate you spending a couple days here at the office and speaking about Pevalen and learning more about it. And we're excited to bring it to the marketplace. We'll have info both on the Perstorp website as well as on our own website very soon. So we'll have that resource and information. Feel free to reach out to myself or your TCC sales contact, or just come in through the website. Happy to speak about it further and start getting people excited about it. As always, the podcast is available wherever you stream your podcasts on. Apple Podcast Store, the Android Store. We'll have this episode up on YouTube and all the social media channels, courtesy of the Kettle Bottom Creative guys here. Once again, thank you, Anders and Jenny, for your time. We look forward to talking to you soon, and we will catch you next time. Thank you.